Compliance Matters. Brought to you by Lenders Compliance Group.
Welcome to Compliance Matters. I'm Jonathan Foxx, Managing Director of Lenders Compliance Group. With me today is Joyce Wilkins Pollison, who is Director of Legal and Regulatory Compliance at Lenders Compliance Group. The subject we want to talk about today is consumer complaints, a subject that I'm sure is near and dear to your hearts. Joyce, I'd like to get some feedback from you on your view with respect to essentially where consumer complaints comes into the process in a mortgage lender or originator.
I think consumer complaints come into the mortgage company's processes in two ways. First, consumer complaints allow a regulator to gain a lot of information about a company during an examination. But the other thing consumer complaints are good for is identifying various weaknesses in the company's compliance management systems. It can be used to identify deficiencies in training, deficiencies in internal controls,
Right.
and in monitoring.
What about policies and procedures? There's quite a bit of need with respect to putting in place appropriate policies and procedures. Lots of companies simply do not have them, and even if they have them, they tend to be somewhat incomplete and not really helpful in resolving consumer complaint issues. What's your view of the policy and procedure situation?
Well, every company, no matter how big or small, should have a comprehensive compliance management system, which includes consumer complaints. Mm-hmm. And as part of that, you should have processes for receiving and responding to consumer complaints. And often we do hear, especially from the smaller companies, we've never had a complaint. Why do we need it? And to that, the response is simple. You need it because you're eventually going to have a complaint, believe it or not. And when you do, your regulator is going to want to see that you have a competent policy in place to adequately address the complaint.
It's a good point. Frankly, there are certain predictable, to some extent, set of issues that typify what types of consumer complaints a lender or a broker might receive. Can you comment on that?
Some typical complaints that's being seen in the industry, one of the most prevalent one is deceptive advertising, which the CFPB has focused on. Mm-hmm. And by deceptive advertising, we're talking about things, examples would be an ad with a government logo on it, which makes it look like the company's affiliated with the government or the program's affiliated with the government. Other ones, we see a very low, basically a teaser rate, but the consumer isn't aware of that. And only in the fine print at the bottom do we see, oh, it's only for 2 months, and then the rate goes sky high. Another example in the case of a refinance, where the ad implies that the individual, if they own the home, is automatically pre-approved and will receive a large lump sum at the end of the day. A couple of other ones that are prevalent right now are, of course, violations of consumer lending laws, a biggie being that a cosigner liability is not adequately explained, and the person doesn't realize that they're actually on the hook for this money if the primary borrower does not pay. And then, of course, we always see these fair lending complaints alleging discrimination.
That's a good point, too. Essentially, complaints come and they go, they get resolved, but none of this matters really in the end unless you can prove that you've been monitoring complaints and you can prove to an examiner specifically or a regulator. What's your position with regards to tracking complaints?
I think ideally you want to have a centralized complaint system, management system, and you do want to track your complaints. As part of that tracking exercise, you obviously want to track the issue involved. You want to track where the complaint came from. Did it come from your regulator? Did it come from the CFP portal? Did it come directly from the consumer? Or is the first time you learned about it was when you were slapped with a lawsuit? You want the dates of the complaints, the date you received the complaint. You want the date you began investigating to make sure you're tracking with any kind of regulatory timeframes. You also want to track what actions you took, and finally what the ultimate response was and what was the date for that. And one of the biggest reasons for doing, other than proving to a regulator that you're doing what you're supposed to do, on the company side, you can analyze your trends in the tracking, and through that, see if there's some kind of trend involved, and if you should be adjusting your business practices so you no longer get that kind of complaint.
Excellent, excellent. Good advice. Thank you, Joyce. We'll see you soon. Come visit us again.
Lenders Compliance Group is the first and only full-service mortgage risk management firm in the United States. We offer a full suite of services in residential mortgage banking for banks and non-banks. Pioneers in outsourcing solutions for residential mortgage compliance. Contact us at compliance@lenderscompliancegroup.com or visit our website at lenderscompliancegroup.com.
This is Mortgage News Network.